Hey, 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 welcome back to Drive Time. I am your host, Craig Pasta Jardula, and we do it live, bringing you all the hot takes, headlines, and unfiltered opinions that matter most. Whether you're stuck in traffic, cruising to work, or just chilling at home, we want to hear from you. Today's topics are all about the big stories making waves, but we're not just here to talk at you. We want to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your take on everything from the latest political debates to the everyday challenges we face. Remember, whether you're on the left, the right, or somewhere in between, we welcome all points of view. So grab that hands-free device, dial us up, and let's dive into the conversation. What's on your mind? It's Drive Time. Call in now. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. It is Drive Time, which means it's your time. I want to make sure I have the right microphone on real quick. Yep, there we are. It's on. I want to say good morning to everybody out there. Gabrielle Freedom hanging out in the chat. Enterman Bill, it's great to see you. Who else we got? Fred Edward. Early today, my man. And let's do our thing. Let's share. Let's get it on out there. A little hot today. I mean, it's hot every day in Florida, but a little extra stuffy today, you know? And that's the thing in Florida. Sometimes where I live in South Florida, right? Also, thanks to Sleepy J on the ones and twos. Sorry, Sleepy. Sometimes I forget you're there. How are you, buddy?
A little tired.
I hear you. It was really stuffy. And sometimes here in Florida, where it gets all like cloudy like it is right now, that's when it can be at its hottest. I mean, you'd think for a second, the clouds are coming in, they're blocking out.
That's when the humidity pops in.
Wind. No.
It's more humid when it's cloudy, man.
How many people we got hanging out on the Rumbles? We got Kyle Anzalone today. It is a Thursday. Looks like a slow start, guys. Can you do us a favor? Can we do a like? Can we do a share? Let's get the people in. Let's wake them on up. Let's tell them it's roll call. Enterman Bill, it seems like the first and only there. I got to plug my computer. It's not plugged in. I'll plug that in. Let me take off my Zoom. Make sure my Zoom's off. Interesting show yesterday on WBAI New York Drive Time. The show I do once a week. I did record it. I don't know how the recording's going to come up. Last week we tried to live stream it, and it just did not work out well. It did not work out well at all. Too many stops and whatever the case may be. So I figured maybe let me try to record it. We can throw it up. I'll take a look at it today. If it came out nicely, they got a lot of issues over there. They got like dinosaur age they're working with over there at that radio station. Old phones, old operating systems. So who knows? But we'll see what's that. Somebody did call in, and they were like, it's his name. I forgot his name. I think it was Leon from the Boogie Down Bronx. And it's kind of cool getting all these calls from different parts of New York. Very respectful, nice guy. But he slipped and said I was full of S-H-I-T. We're like, come on, man. You can't curse on the air. We were talking about January 6th. And still there's this stigma out there, Sleepy, that January 6th was an actual attempt at an insurrection to overturn the government.
Yeah, all it was to give them an excuse to put more fucking anti-protest laws on the books, which they did.
Yes. And more ways for the spying state to get into your shit. In fact, I believe when it came to January 6th, somebody had told me that there were certain banks that would keep your information secure when you use their, ATMs and all that stuff. Like historically, banks are supposed to get some form of privacy. But in this particular situation, the feds were using the tracking some of the people they thought were inside the Capitol through their withdrawals on the ATM. So it put them in that spot. So they gave themselves more power and more funding for the national police. More of your civil liberties go away. They do that all the time. I mean, DeSantis has done some crazy laws with the Black Lives Matter protest. And I was talking about, I kind of compared some of the Black Lives Matter protest where everybody was saying, on the right, I hate to play the team sports mentality, but tribal behavior, what was it, cultish behavior, since Marjorie Taylor Greene is using the word as of late. It just, mob mentality. You just go along with what's being said and you agree. And there were so many people. Oh, Black Lives Matter is burning down our street. No, Black Lives Matter never burnt down your streets. There are people who join those protests that are not part of the organization group. They are not. They don't. They shouldn't have to have. They don't represent Black Lives Matter across the board. In fact, Melina Abdullah, who was actually Dr. Cornell West running mate, she's a professor at UCLA. I was at a Black Lives Matter protest with her, and I was explaining this yesterday on the air. She was the one, the organizer. She talked, and it was pretty much, we're going to go, we're going to march, we're not going to vandalize anything, we're not going to cause any problems, we're not going to throw shit in buildings, break windows. No, we're going to make our voices heard loudly but peacefully, and then we're going to come back here, rally over here, say our things, and go home. Well, you have all these other people, other groups, whatnot, that join these protests. And on this particular day in LA, she was the main organizer. She had given the speech. The march went on to the freeway. Now, I don't know about that because they want to stop traffic, right? They don't want to cause any problems. They don't want to cause an accident. They just want to stop traffic, right? Because that's supposed to, like, what's going on? Black Lives Matter, close the street down. What is their message, right? That's part of the protest. Now, you can argue that that's wrong and whatnot, but they surely don't want to cause any harm or pain, physical pain to anybody. But some guy who joined the protest, he was actually a homeless guy because he came right out of the homeless encampment because they were marching past that, joined the protest. He ended up throwing a skateboard through the back of a state trooper car. Okay. And now it was all over the TVs. Look what Black Lives Matter did. They have no respect for the law. Here they are throwing a skateboard. It was a white dude, too. Throwing a skateboard through the back of a cop car. Black Lives Matter needs to be shut down, Sleepy. That's the way it goes. And that's what happens, right? And I don't know how to convince people on both sides of the tribe, of the cult, that's
I,
what the state is trying to do. They're trying to
I
censor
don't
you
know.
and take away your freedoms. Go ahead, buddy.
I don't think you're going to convince anyone. They're going to have to come to that fucking conclusion themselves, unfortunately.
But I could speak from experience from going to these things, Sleepy,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
I
you
could
could. Yeah,
say,
I'm
like,
just saying, like the people that are still believing this shit, it's going to be pretty hard to fucking convince them. Just saying. I mean, it doesn't mean you shouldn't still try, but it's people. You know, how people are bad. Once they get something in their head, they don't want to give that. They don't want to give that shit up.
yeah, it is. And that's why the whole vaccine situation is so crazy too. Now you got to convince somebody to go against or speak out against something they've already put in their body. Shit, if I put that shit in my body, I'm going to try to convince myself that thing's the best thing that happened to me. Oh, it
Right?
kills it on the spot. By the way, Entenmann Bill says the national debt has hit 40 billion. No, it's hit 40 trillion, I believe,
it,
with a
it is
T
really.
R. Entenmann Bill. I had some chocolate rugelach last night. It was unnecessary, right? Just because chocolate rugelach is in the house, Sleepy, doesn't mean you have to eat it. We're good with a little coffee. Thanks. I made chicken scarpaiello yesterday too. Where's Lady Alex and Sac Passe? There's my friend. Um, where's Stacy and Lady Alex? What are they? Late? They're getting up late over here? Sound off, ladies. Let's go.
I'll be right back.
You come right back. You hurry up. So, a lot of stuff going on in the news, but really a lot of nothing going on. I'm really intrigued by this Nick Fuentes video, right? And all the feds are calling him Fed. Like there's some people out there. If you're not convinced now that Nick Fuentes is a Fed, because he's very divisive in this particular speech that we'll probably get into. I'm cleaning my room. Good morning, Stacy. Good morning, Uncle Bretta. Bretta. You know, gotta get that islands, Bretta. My nephew goes around saying bro, and I call him Bretta. So this Nick Fuentes thing that's going out there, it's funny because Lady Alex, good to see you. Yes, I know it's 6 a.m. there. You get a little slack, but only a little. So I don't know if you guys saw this Nick Fuentes video, man. I keep talking about it, but you all keep jumping in and, hey, Jindo, what's going on? I mean, I keep interrupting myself to say hello. I love you guys in the morning. It's awesome. It's a privilege. to wake up to you guys. Really, it is. It's what keeps me going. Like, yo, let me get up. Let me get the show going. Can't let people down. They're getting up at 6 a.m. Greetings, comrades, is right. So this Nick Fuentes video for the 15th time. Have you seen it, Sleepy? Is he back?
No, I don't. I don't watch Nick Fuentes.
Either do I, but
He just annoys me. I don't watch shit that like literally annoys me. Typically, that guy's just so full of shit.
okay. How do we address it then, too, as well? If, in fact, and I get it. Look, a lot of this stuff we're seeing is not true. It's lies. I'm talking about even the numbers, right? They're suppressing those out there. They don't want to have a voice. They're increasing the numbers for those out there. They do want to have a voice. So it just comes off the heel of now it's like known that Nick Shirley, which, first of all, Sleepy, Nick Shirley's reporting was dog shit anyways, right? It was crap.
Yeah,
I don't know why people were. What even freaking Alex Strenger said something on the show once about Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley's work was garbage. Candace Owens was calling it out, saying it was garbage. But this guy was an insider, a White House plant to, and obviously Elon working closely with the White House and the Zionists, the Zios, they lifted this guy up. They made it look like, because once again, the cult behavior, the tribe mentality. He's got a lot of views. I must see what he's saying. But a lot of times they do have a lot of views because people are following them, right, for whatever particular reason. And the whole thing, there's truth in every psyops, and that's what happens. So your favorite Fed out there will say something that you agree with, and you'll want to support him and want to go along with that person. But on a certain area, they'll lead you down a different alleyway that's not true. I mean, that's what they're doing right now. The social engineers.
it's the Alex Jones playbook.
Yes, exactly. Steve Bannon did it very well, too. He got everybody involved with COVID. He had all the good doctors on, all the good nurses. He had them first, people who were just ahead of the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, he kept on blaming China. So he told you a lot of truths about COVID. He told you a lot of truth about elections, but dangerous misinformation by Mary Talley Bowden, who also has a great video out there right now that I'm going to play, a small video, until our boy Kyle Anzalone gets in here.
Hey, turn up your mic a little bit. People
What's
are
that?
saying you're quiet. People are saying you're quiet in the chat. Turn up your mic a little bit.
Am I better now?
Yes.
How's that?
There's your voice.
There's Ty. Well, TYG, Dave from Melbourne. And this is true. Controlled release of information. That's what Fuentes and Carlson do. Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones. This new guy, Ian Carroll, who stole my speech for Rage Against the War Machine 2. All
Did
wars
he?
are bankers' wars.
That was the guy? Just
That's
for the
Ian
record,
Carroll.
I haven't trusted that guy since he popped up. He got way too big, way too fast.
These guys come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, it's
Jackson
weird.
Hinkle.
It's all fake as hell.
And we know Jackson from back in the days, and I can just tell you he's a completely different person. Sometimes some of the shit he says, this is not the guy I know. It's coming. He's saying stuff just to say shit.
I don't know.
And he's like an agent of chaos.
When I had to deal with that guy, he was a fucking asshole. I'm just going to put that out there. He's a fucking asshole. He talked to women like they were fucking trash on my show. It pissed me off.
Yeah, well, the crazy millions of views and shit. He's working with what's his name over there in Russia, the Alex Jones of Russia, that guy who was supposedly a Satanist. Like, there's a video of the guy, Alexander Dugin, that guy, and then this hardcore Christian shit that they would pull. Please, fucking. So everybody on that list is a Fed. That's what Richard said. I saw that.
That's some facts.
I just got a crazy text right now, and I have to do some. Let me play a video real quick, guys. I want to say good morning. I want to say happy birthday to Sal.
We full screen
Sal.
it, or?
What's that?
Are we gonna full screen this one?
We are going to full screen this one. Let's do this. Hold on. because I also have to plug in the computer so it doesn't die. This is the Nick Fuentes one. You know what? I'm thinking that I should play. Yeah, let's play this one because this is the one that's getting all the views right now, and people are talking about this. I don't know if you can see it. It says here. Let me bring it in. As if you needed more proof that Nick Fuentes is a Fed.
This, the right wing can never, ever forgive Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson for. They can never forgive them for what I'm about to say. Whatever you think about what happened on September 10th, whoever you think did it, it doesn't matter on some level. Whether he was shot or blown up, who pulled the trigger, or who was in Tyler Robinson's ear that made him pull the trigger, all of that exists independently from one very inconvenient fact, well documented thoroughly, which is that Charlie Kirk died that day, publicly, gruesomely. It was horrific. And people that didn't even like him cried that day, but not everybody. There were hundreds, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of left-wingers. Their first reaction, seeing a young man, 31 years old, with a wife and kids, publicly executed, his neck gushing with blood in front of hundreds of college students, their first reaction was to smile and laugh, and then to celebrate, and then film themselves celebrating, because that's how wicked they are. That's how much hatred the left has for us, all of us. That's who Charlie Kirk was. He represents all of us. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. I didn't agree with him. He didn't agree with me. He thought I should have been censored. But the left hates Charlie Kirk because he says the things that we all basically believe, because he defended Christianity, because he defended white people, because he defended America. He defended tradition. He defended conservatism. He defended free markets and the right to own the product of our labor. In the broad strokes, we're all pretty much in alignment with Charlie Kirk. And because he was the face promoting those values, that's how much hatred they harbor for him. And we live with these people. These people are our neighbors. They work with us. They go to school with our kids. They're your elderly parents' nurses. They're your children's teachers. Their first reaction to seeing an innocent man shot in the neck, blood gushing from his neck in front of kids who came and brought the shirt and the hat just to see him and see him defend Christianity in America, their gut reaction, instinctual reaction, was glee. They were happy. They smiled. They laughed. And those people are the sole beneficiaries of the conspiracy. That's all you need to know. The hatred that killed Charlie Kirk, the people that hated him, that celebrated his murder, that said his wife should have gotten it, those people are the sole beneficiaries of his death. Of the conspiracy that has discredited his organization, the conspiracy that divided the right, that got them off the hook. Those smiles should have been turned into frowns very quickly by the Trump government. What else is the Trump government there to do? Why else do we have it? Why else were we a part of this movement other than that? Where there were smiles and grinning and laughing, there should have been crying and the gnashing of teeth from those wicked people. The government should have absolutely crushed those people, deservedly so, because it's happening all the time. And we see it in our society. It's when the healthcare CEO got shot and famous people were celebrating. A father and a husband get murdered by a coward, shooting him in the back of the head because they said, well, healthcare's too expensive. So we're murderers now? So we support murder? That's okay now? An innocent man with a wife and kids, and not like that matters. He'd be innocent if he didn't have that. But innocent man standing outside his hotel, shot in the back of the head by a coward. People celebrate because, you know, healthcare is too expensive. Charlie Kirk shot in the neck, blood gushing, people smiling and celebrating. Why? Because he voted for Trump? Because he supports Trump? Because he wants a meritocracy instead of equity? Those people should have been
Everything that guy
annihilated.
just
They should
says
have been prevented
bullshit.
from ever holding power
Thank you.
again. That's what should have happened. And there's an alternate timeline, by the way, where Candace Owens doesn't exist and Tucker Carlson doesn't exist. And a week after Charlie Kirk is assassinated, we round up Antifa, we round up the DSA, we round up the far left agitators and activists and foot soldiers and donors, and we make it so that they are never able to hold power over us ever again. There's
What the fuck?
Right? I had to stop it right there. Okay.
Look,
So-
dude, this guy wants the government to come fucking put their boot on our throats for protesting. I don't know. That seems kind of bad.
Listen, if this whole thing with this debate with Andrew Wilson and Candace Owens was because
We do have a
Andrew
call coming in.
Wilson is one of those guys, and I know we have a caller. I'm going to take that caller in there because I can see the queue going. And welcome everybody. Good morning. This is Drive Time. We want you to call on in 561-247-2721. It's 561-247-2721. But Andrew Wilson is really kind of like, once again, he wants to make sure that they can blame the left. This is for people like who are trying to push for a civil war, to try and aid the government in us fighting each other, right? By making blanket statements across the board. They're left. I mean, am I part of this whole leftist group that you are talking about? Because I surely feel different than a lot of the people that I know that I marched in the streets.
I wasn't
with
celebrating
and
dude
whatnot.
getting his neck shot. I wasn't celebrating that. It was
I
gross.
never celebrated. I thought it was disgusting, right? And this is the shit he was accused of doing right outside the Capitol, trying to incite violence for people to go inside. This is the shit he was accused of, but never got arrested, right? So there you have it. I think that Nick Fuentes is a Fed. I think Andrew Wilson is a useful idiot. He sees dollar signs, money is an opportunity. This is Andrew Wilson, and he's going to take it. So he's going to say bullshit that he doesn't even believe in. Literally, that he doesn't even believe in. I mean, I saw that dude on Piers Morgan say something to the fact that he was talking about American imperialism spreading and whatnot, how bad it was. And it was the same shit I argued with him about when I saw him in Tennessee at the Cause Fest. He'll say whatever at any time. He's a useful idiot, my personal opinion. Right? You know what I'm saying? And he found a way to make money and monetize being a fucking douchebag. I know Dave from Melbourne loves Andrew Wilson. So
All right, we got to get this call. It's ringing, strapping me.
Let's bring in our guest, Kyle Anzalone. Thank you
back
so much
from
for Sleepy for
Drive
keeping me
Time Show.
honest. Let's bring in Kyle, though. Kyle's there, too. He's ready. Thumbs are up. There you are, buddy. Good morning. The Big Ragu is here. You're going to jump right into a phone call. Phone caller. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Well, hey, Pasta, it's Russell from WBAI.
Bro, I
Hello?
so fucking love you. You see how I can curse? Man, make sure we have Russell's information, Sleepy. Everything goes in. So we
All
can
right.
call him, reach back out to him. Guys, this is one of my favorite people over at WBAI. He hadn't been calling the show for a while. I was kind of upset because I thought he might have been upset with me. But he called in yesterday, and keeping with the need to be expedient on WBAI because it's only an hour show, and I do let people talk for quite some time. I told him, Russell, call back tomorrow on my show. It's 2 hours. We can stretch our legs out. We can have some conversations. Me and Russell disagree on a few things, so we have great conversations. Russell, welcome. This is my friend and a co-host for Thursdays, Kyle Anzalone. Kyle, this is Russell from White Plains, New York.
Great
Hi.
to hear from you,
Hi,
Russell.
Kyle. Nice to talk to you. I hope this is going to be okay. And I think it's more interesting when people disagree. I did like the guy that was calling Leon about Mumia. I sort of wish you asked him about Mumia, what happened when that cop died at the traffic stop with Mumia. They don't want to talk about that. But, I'm as red as the Daily Worker and just as angry. But I could see that January 6th was a great protest. I would have been proud to be part of that. I remember when they tried to levitate the Pentagon. And, I just want to go back to what you do, Pasta, and this is criticism of you, is that you conduct purity tests. and basically about Mondami and a lot of these DSA people. I don't like Mondami's position on the vax, but people can learn. And if they're not consistent, it's better to talk to them. And what's going on with DSA is that the Republicans have lost young voters. They've lost independents. They lost a lot of Republicans. 30% of these people voted against Randy Fine, these Republicans, for a guy who is kind of full of Jew hate, and I'm half Jewish. People are going to turn to socialism because they're saying, what is anyone else doing for us? So, Pasta, I appreciate, you're giving me this much time. I don't like to criticize you. I did notice that you didn't thank me specifically. I thought that was a Freudian slip yesterday, but I appreciate you welcoming today.
You didn't listen to the end of the show. I thanked you at the end of the show when I thanked everybody, and I gave you special props. And I think you can see by the excitement in my voice and you calling in today how much I appreciate what you got to say and your opinions, even though a lot of them are wrong. But that's okay. You're allowed to be wrong, and I'm here to help you get right. But that's our relationship. And I'm not critical of Mondami just because of some of the positions he says. I just don't believe the guy has free will, and I'm also very suspicious from the money he took. And listen, you can agree or not agree about anti-Semitism, how it goes, but Mondami, just like AOC, just like the majority of the squad, they talk out of both sides of their mouths. And they're fence sitters at times, right? And I think a lot of fence sitters, when it comes to Congress, are phonies in some way because they're trying to appease people with their words and really not let their real position out. I heard you try to speak, so I'm going to let you jump in. Go ahead.
No, it's funny because I sort of thought of you as a fence sitter, and I wonder what money is it that Mondami's taken that you're upset about? I'm interested.
Well, Fiorella and we did a whole show on it, and there was a dark money pack, and I think it was from the same people who also funneled money to Obama and AOC. So I think it was coming from the same area. We were looking at it. I think it was a C. I'd have to go back and take a look and pull it up, but there was a pack that was very, very suspicious where, once again, it was with the same phonies that claim to be for the working class, but as soon as they get in, they fall back in line with the rest of them.
Well, I hope it's a two-way street with learning from our mistakes because, Craig, I think that you make mistakes, and I think that you're holding people to this very high standard is counterproductive. I mean, these Republicans are ready to leave MAGA, and I consider myself a MAGA Marxist. I voted for Trump twice because he represents the disgusting situation in this country. He is a seventh grade mentality that appeals to the seventh graders out there that is the majority of the people in this country. So he's going to bring on something different, and that's DSA. I thank Trump for that. I just hope he doesn't destroy the world. But you have other callers, I'm sure.
No, we don't have anybody in the queue right now. We have 0 people calling in,
Really?
so you got a little time to stretch your legs, and
okay.
you shouldn't run off.
I'd like to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't like to run off. I would like to know who this Gabriel Freedom is. She sounds like a very interesting person on your chat.
Yeah. Gabrielle Freedom. She's the producer of this show. Gabrielle has been following the Convo Couch and all the shows I do for quite some time. Gabrielle booked me at the Minds Festival when she started volunteering for Pasta to Go. So she does everything. She helps book people. She helps get me in events. She has discussions about the music we play. And instead of using a bot, because I hate the bots in the chat, Gabrielle does the work of going and telling people where they can go and help the show. I met her in the Tulsi campaign years ago, and we've been friends ever since. She's just a go-getter, and she's been doing this for a while. So yes.
Yeah, I'm impressed with your ability to multitask and look at the chat thing. Now, I just looked at the chat thing, and somebody has said that Republicans won't go for DSA because it's too commie. I think this commie red baiting is getting worn out, and Republicans don't believe it either. And I think that's what we have to. Yeah, I hope so too. Well, it's very interesting how you do this with this.
Russell. Russell, that was not a.
Yeah.
That was not a laugh of support. That was a laugh of sleepy. Go ahead. That was like, oh, come on. Like this is when Jackson Hinkle was starting his MAGA communism. It doesn't exist. They don't even want to think about it. Collectivism.
Well, yeah, well, a warm collectivism is better than that frigid isolation that Mandami said. But I also, Craig, am sending the $50 that I've been holding back for 6 months because I was angry at you. I'm going to send it into WBAI. I don't know how to contribute to this website, this podcast you have, but I can contribute my money.
Gabrielle will show you all the ways to do it. That's why she's here. And there's many ways you can donate to me. If listen, if you want to give to WBAI, you're more than welcome to. If you want to give to me, you can do that too as well. It's always going to be appreciated. But I'm just more appreciative that you called in today because I really do. Listen, I believe, and I say it in my speech at the end, right? Sometimes, let me get the exact words. It's very important. We embrace dialogue over debate and compassion over conflict, right? So we want to listen, disagree, but try to understand each other. And I think that's what this show is all about. Kyle, do you think you're a libertarian? You hate collectivism. Do you think there's conservatives out there that want any form of socialism or collectivism in their life or their politics? And why or why not would that be?
Yeah, so I actually think the caller makes a really good point here where I do think going to see Republicans, particularly younger Republicans who became a part of the party as the MAGA America First movement, really look at the DSA candidates. There's the Democrats right now, they're out of power. And when a group doesn't have like a solid leadership structure, like somebody at the top, it allows for that organization to evolve much more rapidly. That's why I think we're seeing outsiders win in the Democratic Party, like Al Sayed in Michigan, Nixon in Florida, versus on the Republican side, like Massey being removed from Congress, is because Donald Trump is still on top of the Republican Party. But Donald Trump's control of the Republican Party is disenfranchising particularly young voters who are going to look. I think, like, as a libertarian, the populist movement in the country right now, I feel like as a libertarian, particularly as a libertarian who works for antiwar.com and Scott Horton, we've won the foreign policy argument. The people of this country agree with us on this issue. Now, libertarians have not, and we've actually, I think, lost the argument even among the right on economics. If you look at where the populist space is, even with Tucker Carlson, these people aren't against welfare. They're not for as an expansive as a federal budget as, say, Angie Nixon, who's going to pledge free everything from healthcare to childcare to food. She'll say everything's free, which I think there's problems with. I think some Americans are going to recoil against that from the communist issue, from the Cold War issue. But I think younger Republicans who don't see a future of buying a house, having a family, a stable, financial base that allows you to live in the middle class, are going to turn to people offering everything for free because at least they might get something out of this. And unfortunately, Trump is kind of stifling the populist movement among Republicans. And so Republicans aren't going to have an option to vote for a Republican populist. They're only going to have the DSA Democratic candidates on the ballot.
Where there's an area, Russell? I think there's an area, by the way, too, when it comes to healthcare, to get older conservatives a little bit more agreeing with collectivism. And you talked about Angie Nixon saying this for free, that for free. This is the problem. I think a lot of people who aren't for collectivism, where they hit a snag. You could say, well, James Fishback, when I questioned him about socialism the other day, boots on the ground, he said, it's more about why should you be attached and be a slave to the government. If you're dependent on the government can cut you off at any time. Okay, I get that. But if we're wasting all this money on all these wars, why doesn't it make sense to say, hey, I'd rather not spend that money on wars and use it back at home on us And if we really do control the government, this is why I'm into elections so much, because I believe we need the power to hire and fire somebody. But, why can't we use that money that we waste abroad on all these other countries, just use it back home on us? So I think there's something logical there, that maybe some of the, what you call yourself a Marxist MAGA guy, which is very unique because a lot of people within the MAGA movement just can't stand. They're convinced that any form of socialism or communism or collectivism is bad.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's crony capitalism, which is the same thing. So they're just everyone's propagandized as shit.
Well, I think that you're kind of, when I say I'm a MAGA Marxist, it's because of the dialectic. Thesis and antithesis yield a synthesis. There never is going to be communism. And I think, Kyle, it's a little biased to go free, free, free. We can represent free childcare as encouraging family formation. That is what conservatives want. We have to look at what the other side wants. But, I think you said it very well, Pasta, and Kyle, you put it well. This guy Fishbach, I watched Bannon. I don't know if I told you. I watched Bannon. He's in a panic because this guy Fishbach in Florida, that's the guy who came so close to Byron Daniels. He won in the Republican areas of universities and colleges. That means young Republicans won't settle for this guy Byron Daniels, who's, basically, in the House. So I'm just asking, there's a tectonic shift here going on, and it's good to go with the flow and not oppose it. And to the person who said Marxist MAGA, it sounds like fetishistic fascism, I'm going to go think about that. I hope you have some other calls. A really great show.
We'll get them, buddy. We'll get them. Thanks for calling in, Russell.
Now. Okay,
you're amazing,
welcome.
brother.
Bye-bye.
We appreciate it, and you call in. We can disagree some more. It makes for good content.
Not too much. I won't be a chronic, but I will call back. Yeah, don't be
semi-chronic. That's all we're asking. That's it.
Okay, semi-chronic, the best smoke. Okay, bye-bye.
Now you got me smell like Indonesia. I forgot the next line, but it's the chronic, right? That was Let Me Ride. That was one of my favorite songs on that album. That was Russell, guys. Thank you, Russell from White Plains. I don't know the actual fascination with some of the MAGA people when it comes to looking at these DSA people, because I can't say you're not making sense, right? Like AOC and Donald Trump got the same amount of votes within that district. Like, in other words, people voted for AOC and Donald Trump. But that's because I believe they thought they were outsiders, more than anything. I don't think it had anything to do with collective policies whatsoever. It's not like the Democrats are really fighting for any collective policies anyways. You know what I'm saying? They're fucking crony capitalists anyways, which becomes
They're all about the status quo.
Status quo.
Making them money. And making the military-industrial complex lots of money.
Whew. So have you been cooking anything lately, Kyle? What have you gotten anything good lately?
I actually attempted to make pasta with my daughter on Tuesday. From scratch, the flour, eggs, and she's really into Play-Doh right now, so I thought she would have fun with it. I would say about half of the pasta made it through the mixing process. There was a lot on the floor. Then, the rolling it out went well. Then putting it through the spaghetti maker, is one of those things where you have to turn the handle in one direction. And I thought, oh man, she's gonna love turning the handle. And she just couldn't, she kept going back a little bit. So all the pasta was about 3 inches long because she would turn the handle the opposite way.
Yeah.
But, you don't have to have 6-inch foot long noodles to have a good meal. So we did that. Meatballs. We made some sauce from tomatoes we picked in the garden. So it was a good time. It tasted good. Didn't look great, but it tasted good.
I got the final cut of the video I played last week, which I added all the words to. I can probably drop that in and play that. It was the same video, but I don't think you got. Did you get to see it, Kyle? I reviewed a sandwich shop in Peru.
Yeah, I did see that one. That was great.
so I won't play it again. I just had all the words put in for where I was when I was describing things. So with the music was a little bit lowered. We'll have more cooking videos out there. We're gonna get my engineer, my editor on top of that so we can get those things done. So over at antiwar.com, which I love to play, somebody asked me yesterday, my Uber driver is like, hey man, so if I want to get more involved with politics, what should I look at? I'm like, well, the first thing I go to, the first website is antiwar.com, right? There are libertarians over there. So we do, even though we might not agree economically, on the same financial plans, on how to do things, whatnot, I have this kind of Ron Paul mentality as far as not being an interventionist, right? So why are we getting involved in all these other countries? What's happening over there? You want to understand exactly how empire works. Go to antiwar.com.
Not to mention they cover a lot of stuff that just does not come up in mainstream news
at all in the news. So you have yesterday Trump, a crushing economics operation on Iran. Is there something new coming down the pipeline? Is it now that we've gotten the Strait, we control the Strait of Hormuz? No, you don't. We control the Strait of Hormuz? No, we don't. We're going to bomb you back to the Stone Age. No, you're not. Is there a new plan or something that's out there? Is there something else happening, Kyle? Could you fill us in on what's happening over in Iran? Because when I watch the news, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm still trying to decipher if Donald Trump is doing anything here that's actually going to hurt the Iranian economy more than it's already been hurt by the United States. We've had sanctions on Iran for over a decade. And, when you sanction a country over that long of a period, there starts to be diminishing returns on those sanctions. We've seen from Russia and China that they've really been able to sanction proof, tariff proof their economy over time. So it's possible that what Donald Trump is talking about here is all just a fantasy in his head, that's really not going to make any difference for the Iranians. But I do think it's important to talk about the intent of this, which is to cause starvation among the Iranian people. They're trying to cut Iran off from any outside food exports, and it's a country of 90 million people, so they're bringing in some food. You've had a lot of destruction in the country, which obviously impacts the distribution of the domestically produced food and things like that. So maybe this has some impact on the Iranian economy. Maybe the people have a little bit less food at the end of the day, and it starts to cause some problems. I think overall, we're going to see the same impact as we've seen from U.S. sanctions anywhere else in the world, where even if it does cause a hunger crisis inside Iran, the Iranian people will understand that that hunger crisis was caused in Washington and not Tehran, and it's going to make them even more rally around the flag effect, right? They're going to be even more dedicated to helping their country fight this war against the Americans. And the second part is everybody in the United States that's a part of the class that actually gets to make policy pretends that Iran doesn't get a say in this at all. That if we're going to put these sanctions on Iran, we're going to try to starve the Iranians. Iran is just going to sit there and take it like they did from 2011 until 2025. But now we live in 2026. The world has changed. If we try to do this to the Iranians, my feeling is Iran is going to try to do it to Qatar, to the UAE, to Bahrain, to Kuwait, and really cause a lot of problems for U.S. allies in the region. So I don't think this will work. I'm not sure it'll actually turn into anything. But if it does have any effect, it's probably going to be in the food sphere, where it's going to have the opposite effect that the United States is looking for. Rather than weakening the government in Tehran, it's going to strengthen them among their own people.
Yeah, that's what normally happens. I think we have another caller, right, Sleepy?
Yep.
Call back from Drive Time Show.
Is it going to ring?
I have it muted.
Good morning.
It goes to voicemail. Hey, good morning.
The ring. Good morning. Who is this?
All right. This is Cac from Morro Bay. How you doing, Pasta? Sleepy.
Good, buddy. How you
Kyle.
doing?
I'm
Kyle?
doing great. I'm doing
Your
great.
cat.
I got up early to beat the traffic. All
So
right.
where?
So, hello to Kyle. Morro Bay. That's BS. There's no traffic here, and I love it. I'm from LA, where there's real traffic. All right. So I promised this woman that I met at the bus depot, downtown San Luis Obispo, that I'd give a call and relay what she told me. And she drives a van, and what she does is somebody calls in and their husband got arrested, and they go to jail, the county jail, for whatever, and then ICE is there if nobody comes to pick them up. So you probably discussed this on the program, but I just promised her I would bring it up. And she had a lot of phone numbers and I guess postings with slogans on the back of her van. But I think she's doing a service. A lot of these guys are, they don't speak English, but they're hardworking men supporting families. And as a bus driver, retired bus driver, I used to drive this one family, and they all lived in a trailer together, and I drove the kids to school, and the old man, he didn't drive or speak English, but he worked every day. So these are like hardworking, I can't say Americans, but they're part of my community. So these are people that are getting abducted, right?
Yeah.
And taken to God knows where, maybe a black site somewhere, never to be seen again. So I promised this woman I would say that. There's probably in counties across the United States people that do this. And she gave me a card, and it's, report ICE if you see them. Now, and I think it's wrong, that ICE can do that. It reminds me also.
Let me jump in real quick. When they deport these people, they're not even deporting them to their country of origin a lot of times. It's fucked.
Yeah. And the holding facilities.
Exactly.
Yeah. The holding facilities are really fucked up too as well. Please continue, Kat.
Well, this is kind of like reminding me of what's going on with the CCOT thing going on in El Salvador, and they're going to build another one, if they haven't already, in Costa Rica. And this kind of ties in with, Central and South America going right politically. It's like, well, good. This is what we really need. And, it's a wave. It's a movement of abduction. I happen to know a lot of unhoused people in my town that are not the right color skin. And they've been here for years. I see them all the time, and they could be taken away. So it's either that or, Camp Roberts or some camp, And I'm sure you're aware of Keith McHenry's work and stuff like that. And he's boots on the ground with that stuff. And I was actually with him and Steve when Commander X got released, and we had to be there to make sure that he didn't get derailed once he was released from jail. So anyway, I promised this woman I would mention that because I feel like, hey, if they're not free, we're not free. And, so anyway, also a question for Kyle, since he's on there as a libertarian. Is he aware of the Koch brothers' involvement in that particular party? Does he have any concerns about that? And also, Pasta, I think you were in D.C. for J6, and all the people that were going from the speech to the quad or whatever, they had to drop off their backpacks. What happened to all the backpacks? I want to know that.
Well, I think people came back and grabbed their backpacks and then went on their way. I think that people put their backpacks there and trusted that nothing would go wrong with it. And I think that they went and grabbed their backpacks and when they came out, because what it was is the area closest to the stage, it was like about a good 100 yards, 200 yards, like football, couple football fields. So you could like get back from that and watch Donald Trump from the ellipse, which is what it was called, from a distance, and not have to check anything. But if you went into this one secured area, the security was making you was not allowing you to bring bags in there to get close to the president. Secret Service was there doing that too as well. So they were just throwing bags down. They were leaving them, and when they came out of that area, they grabbed their bags and went on their way. So
okay, great.
A lot of people were there for that movement. They believe in what they were doing. They were fighting for their country's lives. They believed that Donald Trump was an outsider. They believed that, you know, there were evil forces in the government. So they really trusted that the people that were there with them weren't going to fuck with their bags. They literally trusted. That's how they felt. And they came out and they grabbed their bags.
Yeah.
But the important thing to remember about that is that ellipse is a 45-minute walk down to the Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
And after Donald Trump concluded his speech and everybody started marching down to the Capitol had already been breached and shit had been shut down by the time those people had got there. In fact, I remember walking away from the Capitol towards the street. We headed towards our car, and some of those people were just coming trickling in from the ellipse where Donald Trump had spoke. And like I said, they were proud. They marched peacefully without vandalizing anything or anything. It's like you could see that, and I was like, "Hey, man, I know you guys are proud that you made this march down here." And you were like, "We're going to show Black Lives Matter how to do this without any violence or whatever." But some of the people in your protest just breached the Capitol over there, and they just shut it down, and they're going to be sending everybody home and slapping D.C. with a curfew. They couldn't believe it. They were just like, "What?" You know? But I think that's a very important part to talk about, the fact that the people who heard a speech weren't the people who breached the Capitol. That's important.
Yeah,
because
and he even admonished listeners to be nonviolent. All right, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Absolutely. I just wanted to point that out, and the bags. But as far as, let's get back to the ICE thing. Kyle, you have to answer about the Koch brothers, but really quickly before you do so, do immigrants who are here undocumented, some people would say illegally, do they have a right to due process?
Yeah, they do have a right to due process, definitely. Now, I guess we could question if they have a right to stay in the country as a result of that due process. And look, I would not consider myself like an immigration restrictionist or anything like that. I did oppose Biden's immigration policy. I thought it was way too loose, and Donald Trump has gone way too hard in the other direction. And I think really even turned the American people who voted for Donald Trump in 2024, in part because he was saying that he would close down the border. But the ICE raids and the way ICE is behaving and the way ICE has trampled all over the Bill of Rights have really turned myself and a lot of other Americans against
and
what
killed
Donald
people.
Trump is doing on immigration.
They've killed several people too. So
sure, yeah. I mean, yeah. On
I don't care if you're here illegally or not. Like, you don't deserve to die.
Yeah, great work, that Judge.
Not
Knapp's
even for
been
bad
doing
driving.
by the way. Sorry, go ahead, Kat. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to throw in, Sleepy said somebody got killed. I mean, you know, the woman driver there, you know, bad driving.
Yeah. Renee, what was her last name? Renee Good?
Renee Nicole Good, I think. And then you had Alex
Preddy.
And somebody got shot in Maine too, pretty recently, right?
Somebody in California too. I forgot the guy in California's name, and I was supposed to look into the California situation. It's like an off-duty ICE officer came back, and
and then on the Koch brothers funding thing, I mean, Pasta might want to tackle this more because I think he's voted for the Libertarian candidate more than I have, where I really don't have a whole lot of affiliation with the Libertarian Party anymore. But maybe just to add a little bit of nuance to it, this isn't meant to be like some massive defense of the Koch brothers or anything, but the Koch brother who was more active, I think it was Charles, died a few years ago, where David Koch, I don't think has donated a whole lot of money to groups ever anyways. And I think the Koch brothers position, at least when it comes to foreign policy, is a little bit more nuanced, where most of these big money groups are just advocating for more and more war, where the Koch brothers do fund responsible statecraft, the Quincy Institute, because they do have an interest to some degree in global stability. A lot of the American refineries in the South, I think they're like in Texas along the Gulf Coast, are built to process heavy crude oil. This is why the Koch brothers were really interested in the Keystone XL pipeline, but also getting oil going again from Venezuela. And my understanding is that the Koch brothers just wanted the previous sanctions on Venezuela lifted, not necessarily a regime change in the country. I think they probably understood that the quickest way to getting Venezuelan oil out of the ground was just lifting the American sanctions on the country, where if you go through with the regime change, again, this isn't to defend all the Koch brothers policies or anything like that, just to add a little bit of nuance to the discussion about those guys.
The Koch brothers funded libertarian members or the Libertarian Party here and there because of their deregulation mentality. That's why they want deregulations. They believe there's too many regulations out there, and that's something big the libertarians, probably even Kyle, who, and I've only voted for one libertarian one time. That's Chase Oliver. I did
still more than me.
You've never voted for a libertarian?
I've never voted. No, I wrote in like Ron Paul when I've decided to vote for president. And unfortunately, I wasn't even born in 1988, so I couldn't have voted for Dr. Paul when he ran as a libertarian. But there's never been a libertarian candidate that I thought was, worth going to the polls and voting for.
Yeah. Yeah, Cap, but the deregulation part, I think, is what the Koch brothers are all about. They're looking at specific issues, and when it comes to some of the economics, they can align themselves with some of the libertarians. I don't even think it's that big anymore. Is Charles Koch even alive?
No, he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
And when it comes to deregulation, it's important to point out that in the libertarian framework, it's about moving towards a free market economy, where what the Koch brothers really want is deregulation for them in their specific sector. So, as a libertarian, getting rid of all these licensing laws that requires people to cut hair for 200 hours before they could get their barber's license or their hair braiding license. That's the kind of deregulation that I really think is important that we advocate for. There are more larger deregulation issues that are environmental that I do support getting rid of, but understand that a lot of if we're going to have deregulation in this country today under the current climate, it's going to be corrupt, right? It's going to be people like the Koch brothers getting specific sectors and rules lifted that benefit only them. It's not about moving towards a free market economy. It's just about lining their own pockets. And so when you do deregulation, it's really important that it has to be directed at the grassroots. And eventually maybe we could work out to start to take on some of the regulations that are put in place by the EPA and things like that I do ultimately support getting rid of. But I think if we were to tackle that in Congress today, it would end up with the laws just being written at the benefit of the major lobbyists and companies, not countries.
Okay. And also, let's mention corporate welfare. What's your stance on that?
Yeah.
I support cutting corporate welfare before cutting any sort of private welfare, right? You got to get rid of all these subsidies and giveaways to the military industrial complex, Amazon, all these massive companies before you start to go into SNAP or Medicare or Medicaid or anything that actually benefits the Head Start, things that benefit people at the lower and middle income levels.
Because basically we've gone from the Koch brothers to the Tech brothers, and
pretty much
that also extends to a lower concentration of, not too many corporations run the media now. Since Clinton, it's been decimated. So Anyway, that's about all I got today. I just promised this woman I'd talk about ICE. I did a little, I looked into Fred Koch a little bit, and he felt like he was unable to do business as an oilman in the United States, and he ended up working with Stalin. But anyway, I suspect that a lot of that is controlled opposition. Hard to prove, but it seems that way. Anyway, thanks, you guys. Have a great day. And pit cells, pasta, pit cells. You ever have those?
No.
With coffee? Oh, man. Yeah, I remember this Italian family. We would go, they made their own pasta. They rolled their own pasta like Kyle was talking about. And they made these waffle-like little pastries, very thin ones that you have with coffee.
Sorry, I've had them.
They're fantastic.
They are great. Light,
love you guys.
Flaky, sweet. Yes. And guess what? It's cat, right?
CAC, yeah.
We're going to continue to talk about. I think the most important thing you called in to talk about was what that lady wanted, what you wanted to talk about, what's happening with ICE. Judge Knapp has done some great work with this. What's his name? The Last American Vagabond has done some great work with this. The lack of principles from a lot of people on the populist right is so upsetting. You're supposed to be constitutionalists. You're supposed to be for that Constitution. At least they claim they are. But then they'll make exceptions when it's something that they don't like, right? Like the whole immigration situation. For them to go and say, okay, they don't have to have a warrant signed from a judge, that ICE can produce a administrative warrant. What is that? Anyways, Kyle, an administrative warrant. That's not a fucking warrant. That's the most ridiculous thing. And I think this is something we need to continue to scream out loud about, because ICE has not gone away. They might have eased down in certain areas. And I think the Trump administration has obtained one goal, which is like in Minnesota, where they've gotten the state to now work with the federal government for handing over illegal immigrants or undocumented workers, whereas in the past they wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Now they're doing that because they're so afraid that these ICE agents, these Gestapo tactics that they use, they'll be running all around the streets terrorizing our neighbors. I mean, to be in Minnesota, CAC, during that protest was quite amazing. It was quite amazing to see a whole community step up. And it's kind of interesting when we talk about the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party, they feel differently about, the border, immigration, and whatnot. There's people like Mike Termat. Is that his name? The vice president candidate? Michael Termat.
Former cop. Yeah.
Yes. But he thinks immigration is great. He thinks that what makes this country great when he would talk about immigration. So he had a different mentality than a lot of the people up there as far as what we do at the border and how we handle immigrants. But at the end of the day, they're human beings. They should be treated as such. And I'm glad you called in and let that lady know that her words are not falling on deaf ears. Thank you so much, brother.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
You too. Oh, we lost our caller. Did we had somebody in the queue? Oh,
no, we
is
got
in the
someone
queue.
coming in.
There was a woman.
Callback from Drive Time Show.
I love it. Let the phone ring. No, man. There it is.
If it hits their voicemail, their number gets on the air.
Hello.
Hey, this
Welcome.
is Drive Time. We're calling you back. Who is this and where are you calling from?
This is Dave from Melbourne, bro.
You like the new system, brother?
Yeah, it's super efficient, man. At first I thought my phone had died because I was getting an automated message.
Nope, it's working. Now you don't have to sit there and hold the phone. You can call. You're in the queue, and we will call you back when it's your turn. We are making moves over here at Drive Time. What do you got for us this morning, Dave?
Schmancy.
I know, right?
All right, so fresh on the immigration conversation. Now, our history is a lie, as we know. We were told we beat the Nazis when we funded the Nazis. Well, after that, we had some Nuremberg trials and some Geneva protocols, right? And even though America never signed on to those Geneva protocols, we are UN and NATO member states, which means we are bound by those Geneva protocols, which include sovereign and inalienable rights. Now, if you read those, you have a right to life and liberty, you have a right to due process, and you have a right to address grievances, whether you are from this country or not. Every living human has that right, and those were mainly instituted upon us because everybody in the rest of the world knows that we funded and protected the Nazis. So this is a precautionary thing to keep us under control. So this whole like bloodthirsty recklessness from the so-called Christian right is just completely ridiculous. Now, one could make an argument that we shouldn't be part of UN and NATO, or maybe we should be kicked out because we keep violating their rules and attacking the UN and NATO member states. But until we're actually no longer a member of UN and NATO, we are bound by those Geneva protocols, no matter what anyone says. So anyone like Tom Homan that comes up and says these people are violating the law are completely ignoring Nuremberg and Geneva protocols.
Yeah, yeah. And those explain clearly what refugee status is. And a lot of times you can make an argument that the fact that there's a military, you can make an argument, right, according to international law, that if there is a military base from the United States in your country, then you have the right. Thank you, madam. Excuse me 1 second. Thank you so much, madam. Oh, thank you, babe. You have the argument that says if there's a military base in your country, right, and that country and that military base are using their government to control your government, to pick, to be involved, just like that we were involved in Colombia, we were involved in Peru, Bolivia, and stuff, that you can seek refugee status in the United States. So most of them, the majority of the immigrants that are coming from Central America, that's where the majority come from, the North Triangle, they actually have a legitimate right to be here. And also, I'd like to say that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights follows us wherever we go. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle. Wherever we're at, wherever we go, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution follows us. So it's not legal for us to be bombing boats, right? Extrajudicial death, murder in the Caribbean, because everybody's entitled to due process. And it's just crazy the way we see these things. Kyle, please jump on in if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I would frame it more as the Bill of Rights follows the U.S. government, where, if you're an American citizen in Mexico, say, you're then subject to Mexican laws, the Mexican Constitution, so you wouldn't necessarily get due process there. But if you are an American overseas and the American government is trying to interact with you, then you still do retain that due process and are, the Bill of Rights, those protections, and would apply to anyone, at least within the United States of America. I would argue that it largely should apply to essentially anyone interacting with the U.S. government, where, just because you're an Egyptian doesn't mean we could put you on a kill list and blow you up with a drone without any kind of due process or anything like that. I guess the only thing I would maybe take issue with, and this might be like a technical issue with our, definition of right, but I wouldn't say that people would necessarily have a right to come to the United States of America just because the United States was interfering in their country. Although I do certainly accept that we have created situations in these Latin American countries that have caused people to have no future in their own countries and then come to the United States of America. One thing I would point at, Pasta, is I don't think that merely having a U.S. military base in your country should be the standard. In fact, in some of these countries with U.S. military bases, I think we interfere with the lives of those people significantly less than the countries that are either sanctioned by the United States of America or just in Latin American countries in general. We have essentially destroyed their justice systems with our war on drugs by forcing a country like Honduras or Guatemala to fight the war on drugs when Americans are consuming tens, if not, hundreds of billions of dollars of cocaine and heroin and marijuana.
And how are you
every
going to get
year.
countries to buy military weapons from us if you don't force them to fight a drug war? They need it for something, Kyle.
Yeah, right. But doing so, right, like in the United States of America, we have a multi-trillion-dollar economy. And so the drug money that is in the United States of America doesn't cause corruption at the top levels. But when you're talking about a country like Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, where their economy is only tens of billions of dollars in total, when you have billions of dollars of cocaine and these other drugs moving through the countries, it becomes the biggest part of the economy. And we see in the United States of America, the biggest part of the economy has a lot of impact on the federal government. And so we've created a situation in all these countries where there is no rule of law, there is no real justice system, there is no real political system that is driven by the people. It's in so many of these countries driven by the cartels, and that's why people are showing up here. I do think that we still, as the United States of America, can determine our own immigration policy, but we do have to wake up to the reality that our foreign policy has real consequences that come to the United States domestically that we have to deal with. And the easiest way to deal with the immigration problem is to address our foreign policy first.
Yeah. Dave, do you think that somebody should be able to apply for refugee status and then receive due process if we simply have a base in their country, or does it have to be more than that?
I think that people come to this country for a number of reasons, and we should have protection ready for anyone at any time. If we have an asylum system, then why aren't we using it? You know what I mean? It's just like, why do we have Nuremberg protocols if we're not going to respect them and observe them, and then make exceptions for one particular country that neither respects or observes them, And I mean, I totally understand a person wanting to come to this country even for revenge. I'm not justifying it, but I'm not going to sit there and pretend like it's not a real thing. I keep telling people, if you don't like refugees, stop bombing their freaking country. Take all these billions that we're spending.
Stealing their resources.
Yeah, creating drug cartels.
No, I was going. You continue, please. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we do this in America. It's been a giant Ponzi scheme. We created the drug cartels, we created the crack epidemic, and then we point and say, look at what they did. We created the drug war, we created the crack epidemic, and then we have a war on drugs. We created the radical Islamist regimes, and then we have a war on terror. What war is next? The war on love, the war on family? Like, how ridiculous are we going to get before people wake up and, actually embrace empathy over foreign policy? Because you can't have one without the other, and at the end of the day, you have all these people crying out, literally bloodthirsty, justifying the deaths of Americans, which I really appreciate you guys covering constantly. And then when it comes time to find out for these people who are getting out in public, like Jake Lang and Savannah Hernandez, these public provocateurs, they're running for the cops. They do not like the finding out phase. They turn into whiners, just like Andrew Wilson turned into, with his little humiliation ritual. I mean,
Andrew
ultimately,
Wilson.
these people
favorite, isn't he?
I fucking hate that guy. I've caught him lying so many times. He's banned me from all of his channels. He's cussed me out by name before. But I'm just going to keep coming back for more, because there's nothing I hate more than a fake Christian. Let me put it that way. Because in my experience, what I've seen from fake Christians is child abuse, child grooming, covering up for child traffickers, the worst of the worst. So when it comes to those people, they absolutely get my bile up. And I don't even try to hold back on it anymore. Because, I mean, it was like 188 Christian leaders that were indicted for child sex crimes last year. It's like when Nico was talking about their child touching insurance. You can't run a church in America without having child touching insurance. This is an insane system that needs to be oversighted and forcibly corrected by whatever means necessary.
let me just say about your earlier comment, just so we know. Number one, stop picking on Israel. Number two, we only supported a certain type of Nazi, okay? Not all Nazis. And three, if we don't, cause a problem, how can we not present a solution to all this foreign policy shit that's going on and all those jihads? But all kidding aside, Andrew Wilson and I got into some serious shit yelling at each other. Andrew Wilson's camera guy is the guy who screwed me over. Still, like, I spent all this money on Lahaina on Fire Part 2, and the guy just ghosted me, just went away. Gabrielle can tell you about the headaches and the heartburn that caused us. Like, we were supposed to release a movie, and then the guy just disappears on us. I should have known better because he was working with Andrew Wilson, and anybody works with those guys. And it's just terrible. But I did challenge Andrew Wilson to a boxing match, and now that I'm getting better, because I was really sick, and now that I'm healing, Fred just sent me some stuff from my legs to clear it up for once and for all. And I really believe a lot of my problems happened when I was in the Navy, and they gave me like the smallpox vaccine and the anthrax vaccine. I don't know for sure if they gave it to me, but that's the time they were giving them out. That's when all of a sudden I got eczema, and it took me years, and it was a big fight to get this out of my system. And that's primary. I think the reasons why I got sick was because of that. I know I'm babbling on, but me and Andrew Wilson, we went back and forth on Twitter, and I challenged him to a boxing match. So now that I'm getting better and I can heal, I'm ready to start training so I can fight this fucking guy. Dave, I'd like to get into him. I got a lot of people who want to train me again. The guy who was on the show the other day, Eric Hollerback's like, I want to train you in Austin. Anthony Imperial is ready to start training me. I got my boy Danny Shaw in New York who wants to train me. So he's a boxer. So I'm ready to get into this and get to the ring with this guy. So that's something I'm gonna look into to see if I can do it. And and the fake Christian thing is real. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. He's just going to reply by saying you're one of those radical leftists that want to kill the right wingers. He's nothing but cope at this point. And honestly, his brand is failing, like this humiliation ritual backfired in the worst way. But I also want to discuss the Fuentes thing because people should know there's a program called Project Gateway or the Gateway Process from the Monroe Institute. And they picked people like me and people like others. It's a way of learning how to speak to control the way people think, to either confuse to manipulate, which is a tool people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, most spooks, they're well trained in. So they basically remove your ability to ask basic questions, and it basically trick you into ignoring common sense. But if you check out the Monroe Institute Gateway Process, it's all about sound control, just like Mockingbird Media and their dun 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 and da da da, to control the way you feel and think and how you respond to the stories they're going to tell you. It's a way of controlling people through the way you speak to them. And when you're dealing with these, quote unquote eggheads like Mark Levin and others who, use speech kind of like a weapon, it's important to know this was all taxpayer funded. And that kind of gives them away like spooks. Like Fuentes is way too well spoken. People like Andrew Wilson, Jay Dyer, who just, play circular logic games. Most of them are just gateway process kids. And once you realize how they're trained to speak, it takes all the power out of their systems of control. And then, you've got people now that are really freaking out about the Charlie Kirk thing. And this, exposure effect in the last week has really blown the lid off everything. Like, people are looking a lot closer at Salem Media now and Brad Parscale and where all this money's coming from.
What were you? Do you agree with me when I say that Andrew Wilson's a useful idiot and Nick Fuentes is a paid provocateur? He's a Fed, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because Andrew Wilson seems to really get emotionally invested in his bullshit and his fake Christian values. He really seems to get emotionally invested. Nick Fuentes seems like he's just reading the script sometimes.
Well, they're the group that I call fake libertarians. Like for a while, made by Jim Bob, Jay Dyer, they were all identifying as libertarian and whatnot, but they're the libertarians that are controlled by people like Gennady Solyarov, who also works with the Transhumanist Party and has been its chairman since like 2016. Somehow he was able to sneak his way into the Libertarian Party movement. And so now these fake libertarians, they identify being libertarian as having superior force for control, which I find is absolutely ridiculous. But it's just another way they expose themselves. Their whole cult ritual belief is to adamantly defend fake Christianity by any means, even if they have to expose themselves in the process. They'll do anything for it, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're going to keep getting payoffs from agents like Salem Media, which is just a giant Ponzi scheme. And the sooner we, expose all these people, the better. Because what I see happening right now, like Candace is part of it, Tucker's part of it, but I think they're trying to create a landing net, because Daily Wire is failing. Their Salem Media funding is exposed. And Candace was originally a Daily Wire person. So she just made $1 million plus. Now she can rehire people like Brett Cooper and create a new Daily Wire while their, movie fails and they get exposed. That whole Run, Hide, Fight movie, it was just Red Dawn for Islamophobia. And their incorporation of Jonathan Majors as well, completely kind of destroys their brand from within, because he's the worst of the worst. He's accused of bad touching. He's accused of molestation and sexual violence. And then he's feeding into Islamophobia for, an arguably radical right-wing Israeli-backed company like Daily Wire. So I think they're just cutting their losses so that they can create this landing net for, their friends like Michael Knowles and shit. Because, these people, it's a cult. They really don't lose that cult faith and worship, because that's where the money comes from, and that's where their protection and comfort comes from. That's kind of what I see coming.
There's a Gabrielle Freedom in the chat, and this is something I want to address. And I was going to give Kyle a shot at it if he wants to do this. But how do we know he's a Fed? What evidence can we cite? Here's the thing. Let me just say this, and I'll hand it off to you guys too as well, because I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Right? A lot of times, hey, there's a little one there for how cute. She wants to make spaghetti. Tell her to turn it just one way. Okay, we gotta get.
Oh, this is actually the husky, not the baby. This morning.
Oh,
that was what
I got. One of the huskies is up here with me. One of my dogs.
You have a husky?
I have two actually.
That's awesome. So how do we know? What proof do we have? When it comes to elections, right, we're not allowed to look at the software. We're not allowed to examine it. It's proprietary. So we never get it, right? So we can never have full proof if we can't look under the hood and go, look at this. This is where the problem's coming from, right? Like if it was a car, we can say, oh, this radiator belt is cut. We can look at it, acknowledge it, and say this is what the problem's coming from. We can't do that with elections because it's privately owned, proprietary software. We have to use other metrics to go, okay, we think that this problem is coming from X, Y, and Z, right? Like we think that they were either stuffing ballots over here or the proprietary software flipped the mechanism over there, or, there's ways we can look at the math. The math tells us the truth, right? But we don't have full proof. Don't we have the same type of metrics in play when it comes to people, if they're feds or not? Like I can't prove that Jackson Hinkle's a Fed. I can't prove that Ian Carroll's a Fed. But my Fediness, right? My sensors tell me something. Nick Fuentes, my sensors tell me something. I felt that Candace Owens is full of shit too as well. I mean, she was running Oracle commercials, for crying out loud, on her websites beforehand. Not too long ago, she just pulled them. How do we prove without the proof? How do we show people? How do we prove without the exact proof, if that makes sense?
I gotta say, I'm not convinced that any of these people are actually feds, particularly not Candace or Tucker. Nick, I'm even skeptical of that. I think, looking at these people over the long term, seeing their progression, you could kind of see how they got to where they got. And look, somebody doesn't need to be a Fed to be influenced and manipulated in order to take certain positions. And I certainly think that's what happened with Nick Fuentes. I mean, this is a kid when he was like 18 or 19 and first went to college. Daily Wire actually tried to scoop him up. He went there first, and they were going to platform him until he moved too far to the right, and then they kicked him to the curb. So I see how Candace got to where she is. I see how Tucker got to where he is now with the tenant media stuff. I think that's really where we see the kind of top level influence working down and making sure that people are repeating certain narratives and things like that. But I want to be careful not to just go to the Fed argument, even though it is a good way to dismiss people who are not a part of the establishment, but who hurt the independent populist movement in this country. Like, I think, Fuentes, Fish back in Florida, what's his name? Dan Blazarian, who ran against Randy Fine. Like, these people are clearly not a part of the establishment, but their involvement in this, independent media sphere or populist movement is actually hurting the populist movement too. So whether or not they're feds, they're certainly helping the establishment in the federal government.
I'm with Kyle on this one. I think we overuse the term Fed on people. Like, I don't think these people need to get paid by the government to toe the government line. So I agree.
Go ahead, Dave.
So, I wouldn't be here and have the knowledge I had if I didn't have my time with NASA working on what I worked on. And that included working with the guy that actually designed our electoral tracking databases, Gary Gans at NASA headquarters. In 2000, his system, which was mostly Microsoft-based, was instituted to track every single penny spent by our agencies. And it also was instituted in the electoral tracking system. It's really just a giant Excel sheet with a Microsoft Access cover that's then, I believe, pulled through Oracle. Don't quote me on that, but it runs through 3 different systems. But the thing is, because it starts off as an Excel sheet, he showed me that if you eliminate data in a field within the Excel sheet format before it pulls over into Microsoft Access, no one can ever see that. And we saw that used in 2000 with the Bush-Gore election when 30,000 African-American votes were disenfranchised. Now, we had to wait almost a couple decades to get that proven. But there are a few ways to kind of tell, and we do overuse the term Fed. I know I do too, because I'm kind of paranoid. But the 2021 Hasbara through Israel, anyone that's following those talking points, specifically, they're either programmed, they're repeating, or they're grifting off of it. You just really have to find out if they're making money. Salem Media is a labeled foreign agent. Brad Parscale, while working for Trump, was exposed embezzling millions to Israel through the Trump campaign, and that's why they had to label as a foreign agent. So anyone taking the Salem Media money is, by default, a foreign agent, if not a Fed. So we can work on these things, and we've all seen, the parroting effect. When you've got 20 to 30 different networks around the country, you're repeating the exact same story to paint rhetoric and narrative, just like we saw on 9/11. So even though, yes, we do overuse the term Fed, and we might become accusers at some point, I think it's best to, caution being the better part of valor, and just to keep our eyes open. Because once it's too late, it's too late. Once someone has, say, taken one of your friends, like what happened to me when I was 14, once someone is gone, once someone is victimized, it's too late to take that back. Then it's nothing but guilt, and nobody wants to live with that guilt. So just, err on the side of caution. I still think Candace and Tucker are Project Gateway. Tucker inherited the Swanson fortune. He's dabbling in lab-grown meat and some of the transhumanist agenda, and that's the other thing. Are they playing into the transhumanist agenda? Are they ignoring geoengineering? Are they ignoring sun dimming? Are they ignoring DARPA transhumanism, which is a treasonous violation of Trump's own NSPM 7 executive order? Are they ignoring the Epstein files, which also involve transhumanism? Are they involving the Trump's involvement in Davos and the World Economic Forum? These are all critical questions that can tell us what side of the good and evil these people are on, and it's up to our discernment. And as you learn more and as you look deeper into it, your discernment is going to get sharper. So it's really on each of us, and that's why we have discourses like this where we can, argue it out and, talk it out. But I mean, these are some basic rules that you can follow to really find out who the good guys and the bad guys are, because it's hard to get into a position of power if you're going against the American establishment right now. I mean, they'll straight up kill you if they have to.
Yeah, especially in media too, as well. They want to control this space more than anything. You know what I'm saying? I've run into a lot of resistance along the way, a lot of demonetization. I had my Twitter hacked not too long ago. I've been facing this for quite some time. But there are legitimate things that can back up some of the accusations we do make. I mean, COINTELPRO, right, Dave? That's a real thing, and that speaks of infiltration. So we might not know for sure who exactly it is, but we understand that the government funds programs like this. Was somebody trying to
speak? I'm putting the Monroe Institute Gateway process in right now. These were the hearing tests that were given to public school kids in the DC metro area, which Uncle Brother is another one from the DC metro area. I was a Project Gateway success. I didn't understand the ramifications of being able to hear every tone that they tested me on, to the point where even the testers were surprised that I could hear the things they couldn't on that hearing test. But I'm also the kid that became sensitive to electromagnetic, vibrations and sounds, at age 12. So the gateway process basically hunts down kids who are capable of achieving higher levels of consciousness through resonance and harmony. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've always been like one of the strongest voices in church, one of the strongest singers. And something about that, like resonance control, is really important to them, to the point where the Monroe Institute's Gateway process is all about it, like control through sound, which would put the sonic in Masonic control systems. Because everything is light and sound. Everything we understand, we perceive, it's all light and sound. And then the perception is up to you. So if people look up the Monroe Institute Gateway process for themselves, it's insanely eclectic and metaphysical in its nature. But this is a real program that goes into our public schools and pulls kids out for special programs for grooming. And that's how I ended up with a NASA badge before age 16. That's how I ended up working on weather mod and mind control proposals before my 17th birthday. Because they found me early, they groomed me, they brought me into a special program, and then even amongst the 20 people in that special program, I was the one that got hired permanently to work at NASA for, 3 more years until I gave up. But that took me to the point where I was getting job offers from freaking David Keith of HARP before he even headed up HARP. Because I'd already been looking at proposals for weather modification and geoengineering at Los Alamos Labs, mind control at Los Alamos Labs. I was already looking at that stuff. I was already, in control of those things and, actively sold out and trading my, sense of self-conscious for a paycheck, because I was taught that's how the ladder of success works. I was brainwashed as fuck until I was about 24.
You ain't success, Dave, unless you have fucking what do you call it? For the water, the jet skis, the jet skis. That's the ultimate, judging stick in life. You got jet skis, then you've made it, man. You've made it.
First or last.
Dave, thank you so much for calling in. You always have some great things to say.
I appreciate you guys.
No, wait, hold on, Dave. What were you asking? You were asking about Ricky Bobby?
No. What I was asking is, what is it they say? Those who don't come in first will come in last. It's like that all or nothing thing. You know, they
Yeah.
treat the ladder of success rather than, you know, the escalator of success where we can all communally succeed, because they adamantly fear the people getting along enough to realize that the means of production are being actively stolen. And our country already exists as socialist. I mean, blue states are subsidizing red states with taxpayer dollars, while red states are feeding them energy back. I mean, that is socialism. America is socialist right now. And despite that, I mean, most of the failing states are red because they can't produce the energy anymore. And we're down to like 0.297% of our oil reserves. We went through 16 years of oil in a year, and now our
Not
main
even a year.
export is
Not even a year. It was like a half a year.
11 months.
I was looking at that chart the other day. This shit's ridiculous. People aren't even talking about this. We've just tapped it into our reserves and sucked them dry. We got nothing left.
Less than 0.3%, bro. Less than 0.3%. And our main export was oil. Now our main export is drugs. So the war on drugs is a war on our main export now. So our priorities are all screwed up. And all the rest of our main exports, guess what? Petroleum derived. So we're in this corner because of the petrodollar, which we didn't need to have. We have all kinds of free energy we could invest in, but they're too busy, you know, literally poisoning us slowly and, you know, having humiliation rituals on our dime and laughing in our faces. What is it they say? They piss on us and laugh?
I don't know that saying, but it doesn't surprise me. I'm looking for the graph, by the way. They piss on us and laugh.
Yeah,
Hold
keep in mind, a lot of these petroleum reserves, they're in like salt caves and shit. If they draw those down too much, they're gonna have some problems with them caves. So and all to like kind of stabilize the price artificially while they bomb the fuck out of Iran. So, but eventually supply is gonna catch up with reality, and the price shock's gonna be rough.
They really do
we were
risk
trying to
having
figure
like
out-
some kind of critical failure in those salt caves where the U.S. strategic oil reserve is, because the way they get oil out is by pumping water in. I guess the oil in there is the less dense than water or something like that, but adding the water is the process. So the more water you add to a salt cave, the more erosion you're going to get. And so whenever we're at the low levels like we are now, we really don't know at what point we risk catastrophic failure in the U.S. strategic oil reserve by continuing to pour water in to get oil out.
Yeah, and I just posted in the room as well in YouTube. I looked up. We were trying to figure out how they were keeping prices so low in Florida. And I had heard people complaining that their trucks just weren't working right. They raised the ethanol percentage in the regular gas from 10 to 15%. That drastically destroys your engine. And one could argue they're trying to push people more towards electric AI cars this way, the whole flock thing. But we can get into that another time. I've taken up way too much time on the phone.
I don't think we have anybody in the queue, though, so you didn't take up much time. You actually provided some great information out there. I think the chat, you always get great compliments, Dave, and I look forward to meeting up with you in person sometime really soon, man. Thank you so much for being such a key part of this show, like every single day. I mean, seriously, whether you're in the chat, whether you're on the phone, we love hearing from you, and I love getting educated from you. By you, excuse me, I should say. So thank you so much, Dave.
I learned from you too, buddy. No, I learn a lot from you, your guests, from this show, and the chat. I mean, we're all a community here as far as I can see. There's tons of great people, and I look forward to helping this grow. I've been a fan of yours and T's since the Convo Couch, since we were all hiding on Rockfin from censorship, and we're here now, and they cannot silence us anymore because every time they try, they put their foot in their mouth, and I'm here for it.
Thank you, man. And it's a shame too that Rockfin, I think, has kind of nuked all our videos on the back end. So there's no history of the work we did during COVID. anymore.
I tried to warn y'all way back when. I didn't trust them fucking people that they were just gearing up to try to sell.
But we had
And
no
that's
place
exactly
to
what
go.
they've done.
We had nowhere to go.
No, I get it.
Rumble wasn't a thing. Rumble wasn't a thing, and we got hit hard. I mean, the Combo Couch got hit hard on YouTube, real hard. That really quickly, Dave, too, as well. The Twitter files, was that in really quickly, because we do have another caller in the queue. The Twitter files, was that a Fed operation too as well? Because right now, it seems like there's no talk of censorship, demonetization, and stuff. Remember when Donald Trump was in the outside looking in, and a lot of Republicans like Dan Bongino, and that was in the Twitter files, were all getting censored. It's almost like they've acted like they've corrected the problem, and now they're moving on. And it's still a serious problem right now because we have no mechanism to look on whether our media coming out is fair. There's no open source system. They have the keys to the kingdom, and they seem to be controlling things in the back end. Do you think the Twitter files was a Fed operation by any chance?
Yeah, all these congressional hearings, as far as I'm concerned, the MK Ultra, the Fauci trial, we have one day of consternation and hard-hitting data, and then they just leave it all in a giant mess for us to sort out. You know what I mean? So the modern analog would be the Fauci trial. They're not discussing how the birth rates are in such declination that we are 30% below replacement levels. So while right-wingers are crying for women to quit their jobs and start having babies, it's because without immigration, we cannot actually replace our population properly now due to the clot shot, something they knew in 2021, something Trump is still pushing to today, along with his sun dimming and geoengineering. So when it comes to Matt Taibbi, I never really trusted him. There's something wrong with eggheads who speak too well, in my opinion, because I am one, and I know there's something wrong with me. But Schellenberger, too, the fact that Stacey Plaskett, an Epstein agent, who's also the head of biodigital agriculture right now, by the way, under Trump, was giving them such a hard time and gaining so much notoriety while everyone was ignoring and is still ignoring her involvement with Epstein in the Virgin Islands on early Neuralink targeting 9-year-olds. That was all a setup to elevate these transhumanists like Stacey Plaskett, who isn't even a real congressperson. And somehow she's now the head of biodigital agriculture. She was exposed getting texts from Epstein during the trial itself and suffered no consequences for this, has not been investigated at all. These are humiliation rituals so they can laugh at you in public. The most profound one I know of is David Grush from Space Force, where he's literally telling us there's invisible creatures around us. That's why Space Force was created. They're controlling human behavior, and we don't want to talk about it beyond that. And that's one of my favorite rabbit holes, is the whole nightmare dream demon thing. But, we can get into that some other time. But yeah, they straight up said in a congressional hearing that we're surrounded by invisible terrestrial entities that control our behavior. But, no big deal, no big threat. We're just funding, Space Force to monitor it. Yeah. Stacey Plaskett, Fred, is the head of biodigital agriculture. Look it up. She got into her position very quietly. I only found out because I was looking up information about her, and her entire proposal for biodigital agriculture in America came up. So she's right in there with Gates and Epstein, pushing the freaking transhumanist agenda via her fake position as a congressperson from the Virgin Islands after working with Epstein to target kids for early Neuralink. And Elon Musk inherited that project. Now we know why he was at parties with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now we know why he was trying to party with Epstein. Epstein was originally the guy that had Neuralink.
Biodigital agriculture. It just sounds dystopian. Dave, thank you so much, brother. We love you.
Thanks for giving me a voice, Pasta. You guys are the best. And thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate the things you say. I got a lot of respect for you, man.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Got more respect than I do. He's just on the show because he's Italian. We got another caller over here. Caller, who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Thank you, Dave.
It's Wesley from Florida.
Who is it?
Wesley.
What's up, Wesley? How you doing, buddy? Good morning.
I'm doing pretty good. You guys were just talking about Stacey Plaskett, and she brought, like, Epstein texted her about who is Rona Graff, and I still really don't know. She has a very short bio. Somebody needs to investigate that because, well, I could go down the whole MK Ultra rabbit hole on that one, but I'm going to just put that on the burner because people need to look into her, and it hasn't happened yet. But the other thing was, I was thinking, what happens if the people behind the Innocence Project, who got the Central Park 5 people freed after being wrongfully accused in the New York Times by Donald Trump at a full-page ad, and also behind the wrongfully accused web organization, these nonprofits, what if they were putting their foot in the ring and had contacted the Obamas and we're going to step in on behalf of Tyler Robbins? Because that's the other half of the Rob Reiner story. Because that's who is behind those projects.
I'm not following you. And Rob
So
Reiner
maybe Rob Reiner got cleaned up. Rob
What's
Reiner,
going
he's
on
the
with
guy.
his son, by the
They're the
way?
people that started. What's wrong with the phone?
No, what's wrong? What's
I
up
don't
with
know.
his son, Rob Reiner's son, right? Like,
I don't know, but he's in jail waiting trial, but he may be wrongfully accused. But they started those two organizations, Wrongfully Accused and the Innocence Project. So, like, that's his foundation.
mm-hmm.
And so that totally plays into possibly the Tyler Robinson thing. And I'm still holding out that Erica Kirk is Trump's daughter and that Charlie was his son-in-law. So I'm sticking with my guns on that one. That's the
it's not Trump's daughter. It's Trump's daughter, right? That's
Erica.
Erica Kirk is Trump's daughter. Yeah. Do you believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
I don't know. It's a crazy story one way or the other, and I don't trust the media. So for, questioning it, you got to I just was wondering if that had expanded, if maybe the Reiners were talking about stepping in the fray, and then, 17 hours before they were going to meet with the Obamas, they ended up dead. That's just a coincidence. And the other coincidence about the Rob Reiner story is that he was living in, if they got their throats cut or whatever, he was living in the house that was the Fonda house. And I don't know if it was James Fonda's mother or her stepmother, but she also had her throat cut, which is just a coincidence, but a huge coincidence. I just thought that was a funny side bit, right? Well, not funny side bit, but a side bit.
I don't even know how to react to some of those. I just start thinking and start puzzling on them. Like, that is interesting.
Well, when you have somebody like Jane Fonda go to Vietnam and do, that tells you you're working with the CIA. Well, if you're going to Vietnam to meet with the North Koreans, you're working with the CIA at some point at that point. So there's a lot. I don't know. There's something there, but she's like, I just don't know what's going on with the Fonda house. That's all.
Did you have any opinions about the debate that took place the other day, though, between Andrew Wilson and Candace, or you just ignored it and said, I'm not watching this, sir?
I didn't even watch it. I figured it would be a show that was, I don't know. And I've seen other people, I've seen clips of it, and it's like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's what I expected. So, but it wasn't.
Kyle, did you watch it? Do you have an opinion about it?
Yeah, I watched out. I would say 75% of it. At some point, I couldn't take Andrew Wilson anymore. I mean, the interesting part of that debate is when Andrew Wilson admitted he was only 75% sure that Tyler Robinson did it to me, because that seems like a pretty big gap. And I don't know, I guess if I were a juror and I were sitting in the bench on a murder trial, I would probably not feel that 75% was above a reasonable doubt and would then vote not guilty on the murder charge. So I don't know, in a way, Andrew,
I don't think his job was
didn't
necessarily there to put the frame and blame on Tyler Robinson, right? Like it does kind of play into his whole mentality that
I do think that was
left.
actually the debate resolution was around Tyler Robinson, if he actually did it or not.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I feel like Andrew Wilson, along with the whole, and I sent a message to Ian Crossland. Never heard back from him, but I watched their piece on the whole situation. It seems like a lot of people were out there, not so much to say that necessarily that Tyler Robinson did it. It's just to prove without a reasonable doubt that same question that Gabriel Freedom asked earlier. What proof do we have that they're a Fed? Well, it's to make sure that there was no solid proof that Israel and the United States had done it, like Candace Owens had said, perhaps they have done it, right? Like, and the part that drove me crazy was when Andrew Wilson was asking Candace Owens about, okay, there's fingerprints on the gun. There are 4 sets of fingerprints on the gun. His are the less faded, the least amount that you can tell on the gun. In other words, the least.
I think it was.
I don't really want to
on the gun, and he kept on saying, "How do you put together that being the possibility that Tyler Robinson could have been a patsy?" I'm like, do you really have to fucking explain that? If there are 4 fingerprints on a gun and his are the least visible, how somebody in their mind can come up with perhaps he's a patsy, right? Like he was trying to make that distinction there. Like, how do you get to that? Like he wants to crush that fucking idea, and he was also not prepared for that argument. Go ahead, Wesley.
I just, there's a lot of shows covering the Tyler Robinson case, and this doesn't need to be one. I would rather cover the NGO side of things, like how the day the U.S. started sending anti-personnel munitions to Ukraine, that weren't just regular artillery shells, that's when they gave the Halo Corporation, which was started by, they take care of munitions, unexploded munitions in war zones, and they gave them $118 million. But that NGO is chaired by John McCain's wife. Yeah. And then you look at other things like that. I'm looking at the business side of things, where when you look at the money moving around behind the scenes in NGOs, I think that's more important.
I gave you javelins. They gave you sheets. Obama gave you sheets. I gave you javelins.
Exactly.
That's what you're talking about, right?
It's interesting is the Ray of Hope, which, well, no, this was during the Biden years when that deal went down. It was pretty early on. But the other thing was, the other NGO to look into is Ray of Hope, which was Educating Girls in Palestine, which is Madonna and Sean Penn's NGO that was started back in the day. And I just wondered if they had weighed in on the death of the women that they were trying to educate.
Yeah. I think we need to have a panel. No, go ahead. I was just going to tell Gabriel that when we do PastaCon, we have to have a panel with Wesley, Dave, and Snorky up there, just to have one of the panels when we do PastaCon. Because, man, I can take notes, and I got a million rabbit holes. I got a ton of research to do after you have a phone call with us, brother.
Here's some more research, just because you're in the election space with the whole what's going on and stuff like that. Look into all the massacres in America done by the state against the minors, like the Ludlow massacre and Blair Mountain and a bunch of other things. Because if you go down that rabbit hole, you'll see that it's the Rothschilds and the bunch of those people that have federal agents on their behalf killing Americans who are getting kicked out into tent cities or whatnot and having the tent cities mowed down. over and over and over and over. It's the history of America, and we fought back for a long time with unions, and then that collapsed. And the biggest sign of that, is the whole election with Fetterman and Dr. Oz. That was
Dr. Oz. Yeah.
no choice whatsoever. But obviously, Fetterman's a Fed. Like, that guy is not a union representative by any means, and he was clearly worked his way and earned his position to be a senator.
The hardcore Zionists never lose elections. Like Jared Moskowitz just won. Debbie Wasserman Schultz won again. So yeah,
unbelievable. I am sick to my stomach with that.
Yeah. And now in Florida, what a lot of Democrats are doing is that they're blaming all the people who ran, and that, like, Luther Campbell also ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. If you don't know who Luther Campbell is, ladies and gentlemen, he was in 2 Live Crew. But yeah, I mean, those people never lose. We got to get out of here, Wesley. It's at the top of the hour, and we're going to wrap up the show, man. But thank you so much for calling in today, brother.
All right.
I really do appreciate what you and Dave do and what you bring to the table.
Well,
you got a lot of great things to talk about, man. It's awesome.
Oh, I got one more little bit.
Go ahead.
The things, the Arch Mining Company, which I wonder whether the previous owner of Epstein Island, Arch Walker Cummings, was part of that. But Arch Mining Company totally got a whole, look at all the things that Trump did when he got in office with the runoff from streams and waste materials from mines and all that stuff, with the guy standing behind him in the Oval Office when he signed that bill, and all of that because they got, like, he even took out a super PAC to give to money to people, and then went into bankruptcy. So, like, the whole thing is so crooked, but clean coal, baby. Clean coal.
Clean, beautiful coal.
That's what you're looking
Wesley.
at right there.
Clean coal. Love you, brother.
There is some dirty politics there. All right.
Yeah.
Peace.
Dirty politics all over the place. And I got good friends who are looking out. Thank you so much, Wesley, for calling. And by the way, no woman on the panel? No, you have your own panel, Lady Alex. You have you, Stacy, and Joanna on a panel. Okay? You got your own panel.
With the conspiracy folks, we need to get Amber King up in here.
Yes, got to get Amber King on that panel right there. You know what I'm saying? It's too early for her over there. It's 5:00 in the morning when the show starts out west. But I call Amber King the conspiracy mom of the Truther movement. Kyle, let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on, what shows, what guests, all the good stuff that everybody wants to hear. And thank you for joining us this Thursday.
Yeah, thank you, Pasta. Check out my show, The Kyle Anzalone Show. Yesterday, I interviewed Jim Webb. We talked about all the stuff going on in the Middle East, particularly the U.S. Navy situation with the USS Abraham Lincoln. I interview Larry Johnson every Monday. I'm going to be rolling solo today on the show. And then keep an eye on antiwar.com. Dave DeCamp is taking a couple days off, which means I am filling in as news editor. So all those news stories at antiwar.com over the next week are going to be written by myself and a couple other people trying to do the work that Dave DeCamp does.
Going to give Dave DeCamp a much-needed break. The guy works his arse off, and I'm sure everything will be fine. You guys have a great unit there together. I go to antiwar.com. Like I said, I told my Uber driver, go to antiwar.com if you want to know about foreign policy and what's going on. A lot of things that are on there are always disturbing, but I am glad to be educated on it, including the economic operation that we talked about today, and constantly keeping us up to date. Whenever I want to know how many Gazans are killed by Israelis, I just go to antiwar.com and it will tell you 10 the other day, 6 the other day. It hasn't stopped. We won't stop. We won't stop talking about it. Thank you so much, Kyle Anzalone. We love you, brother.
Thank you, Pasta.
You got it. All right, guys, that's it today. I want to thank everybody who called in. Wesley from Florida, of course. CAC from Morro Bay out in California. That was great to hear from him and see him again. I saw him in Florida before. Maybe he's out here. Maybe he's not in Florida. Dave from Melbourne, of course, called in. Dave had a lot of great things to say.
No, it was in LA at the fuck censorship thing.
Yes.
We both met him there.
But I also saw CAC, I think, at a Kim Iverson event in Florida. I could be wrong, but I think I did see him there in West Palm Beach. Time to put some hustle behind this. Russell from White Plains called. It was great starting off the show this way. So we're going to get into the closing monologues. I also want to thank Gabriel Freedom, Fred Edwards, all the ladies. You guys were awesome today in the chat. Lady Alex, Stacy, you really hold it down all the time. And I am very thankful when I see your names out there chit-chatting and keeping it going, because that's very important, the chat, to make sure we have a good space where people can come in and throw their opinions in, even if they don't call on in. So it's very important to me, and I love the way you all hold it down. Sleepy J, thank you so much for getting up and rocking with me. Tomorrow we got Andrew Zigman on the show. He will be in the house. I want to thank Carol Anzalone for coming through on Thursdays. So as we wrap up today's show, let's take a moment to reflect on the importance of diversity of thought and the peace we can cultivate with our neighbors. In a world that often feels divided, it's our differences that can actually bring us together. Every unique perspective, every story shared, enriches our collective experience and fosters understanding. Remember, it's okay to disagree. It's how we handle those disagreements that truly matters. Let's embrace dialogue over debate, compassion over conflict. When we listen to one another, we open the door to meaningful relationships. By engaging with our diverse communities, we can find common ground and build bridges that promote peace. So I encourage you to reach out to someone with a different viewpoint. Share a meal, have a conversation, or simply listen. Let's create a ripple effect of kindness and understanding in our neighborhoods and beyond. Hey, thank you for tuning in today. And remember, together, we can celebrate our diversity and pave the way for a more brighter, more peaceful future. So until next time, keep the dialogue flowing and that peace growing. I want to thank everybody once again today for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Andrew Zigman from the Action for Assange folks will be here hanging out on a Friday. Until then, I love you all and peace.